Hello, welcome to another edition of TutorTube, where the Learning Center's lead tutors help you understand challenging course concepts with easy-to-understand videos. My name is Kelly Schmidt, lead tutor for statistics at Learning Center. In today's video, we will go through the process of logging into SPSS, entering and coding data, and running a basic two-sample t-test. Let's get started. Okay, first, let's look at the research question we're interested in here. We're interested in comparing two groups of students. The first group are math majors, and the second group are art majors. We have reason to believe that art majors will get better scores on a spatial reasoning test than math majors, so we collect a small sample of students from each major and measured their scores in order to test our idea. These tables show the results of our study, and we can see by inspection that the art majors in our sample tended to have higher scores, but we want to use a t-test to try and draw some conclusions about the larger populations involved. Let's start by entering our data into SPSS. So if you are a UNT student, you can get free access to SPSS using your student email. Visit the university's Information Technology Virtual Labs website at this address and follow the instructions to submit a request to access the system. I like to use the web-based application, but you can also choose to download the VMware Horizon client and have access to SPSS on your local computer. But if you click on the VM Horizon HTML access to move into the login screen, you enter your student email and password, and then you will see this screen pop up listing all of the applications available in the virtual lab. So we scroll down until we find the SPSS 26 logo, and after we click on that, wait for the application to load, we should see this window appear. And we can choose to either open a previous file or create a new dataset to work with by hand. And here we'll select New Dataset. This will open up a blank data table for us to use. It looks fairly similar to an Excel table, but unlike Excel, SPSS needs us to define and code our data before we run analysis on it. Notice that we're currently in Data View. This is the place where we will enter the raw numbers from our data. The first column will be our majors. Now, the trick here is that we want to avoid using the names of the majors themselves in data view. We want to dummy code them. This means every time we see a math major, we replace it with a 0, and every time we see an art major, we replace it with a 1. So starting with math, we click on the first cell, type 0, and then hit enter to move to the next cell. We have 11 of each major, so we will have 11 zeros and 11 ones. Notice that SPSS automatically names the column var 0001 and places 2 decimals after each number. We can change this later. Next, we enter the values for the scores themselves in the second column. It's important to remember that in SPSS, each row represents a single person. So we couldn't enter the scores for each group side by side like they appear in our dataset. They need to be in just 2 columns, one for the major and one for the score. Okay, now let's switch to variable view. This is where we define our variables. Our first column is where we name our variables, then label them, and clean up the data view display. The first row here corresponds to the data in the first column in data view, our majors. So let's click on var 0001 and rename this column as major. Next, we can enter a 0 under decimals to make our entries appear as whole numbers. Then we move on to the labeling or dummy coding of each group. Click on the blue box that appears next to values, and it will open a new window. Remember that we coded math majors as zeros, so here we enter 0 for the value and math for the label. Next, click Add, and see that this label has been added to the system. Now, every time SPSS sees a 0 in the major column, it will know to label it as math in the output. This makes reading our output files much easier later. Repeat the process for art majors. Here the value is 1, and the label is art. Now click OK. Next we'll move on to the measure column. We need to define the level of measurement of each variable, either nominal, ordinal, or scale. Since our majors are either math or art, they are nominal data names. Now we can switch back to data view to see how our data has been changed. We can see that our first column now has a header of major, and our zeros and ones are now whole numbers. The 3 balloons next to the label indicate that SPSS is treating this as a nominal variable. Now let's switch back to variable view and repeat the process for the second variable. Here our name will be spatial underscore score. Here all we need to change is the measure. Our dependent variable in a 2-sample t-test will always be numeric, numbers, so we have a scale or ratio measure. Now we're ready to run the analysis itself. To run an independent samples t-test to compare the means between 2 groups, we will click on Analyze, then Compare Means, then Independent Samples t-test. Now we need to define our independent and dependent variables. Under Test Variables, we want to add spatial score. Click on spatial score and then click the arrow to add it in. This is the dependent or response variable that we're interested in. The variable that goes in this box will always be a numeric or scale variable with the ruler icon next to it. Next, we add major into the grouping variable box. Now we click on Define Groups. Under Group 1, we enter the dummy coded number we used for our math major group, which was 0. For Group 2, we enter a 1 to represent the art major group. Click Continue, and then OK. This will open up the output window in SPSS. This window with the blue icon in the upper corner is where SPSS collects the results of all of the analysis we run. This file is separate from the data file that we created earlier. If you want to save your work, be sure to save each file separately. We can minimize the output file to get back to the data window, which has a red icon in the upper left. We can also use the tab on the side of the screen to navigate between files in SPSS, so switching between data and output is easy. So thank you for watching this TutorTube presentation. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to our channel for more exciting videos. Check out the links in the description below for more information about the Learning Center, and follow us on social media. See you next time.